Good morning. I call to order the September 16th, 2024 meeting of the Michigan State Capitol Commission. I'd like to ask Secretary Marvin to please call to take the roll.
Chair Candler?
Yes, here.
Vice Chair Bauer? Here. Mr. Bowman?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Hobbs? Mr. Oberlin?
Here.
5 members are present.
I'd like to entertain a motion to excuse Commissioner Hobbs.
Support.
Move in support that Commissioner Hobbs be excused. He has a work conflict that came up over the weekend, so he was not able to make it. The next item on our agenda is always the toughest one for us, establishment of meeting dates, finding dates that work for everybody. So, Secretary Marvin, you want to talk to us a little bit about what we're landed on?
So at present, we have a meeting tentatively scheduled for Monday, October 28th. That will be at 11 a.m. per our normal schedule. And then we are looking at meeting again sometime the week of November 18th, either Wednesday or Thursday. More information will be coming on that once we sort it out.
Thank you. So we expect our next meeting October 28th. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes for June 2024 meeting. Any comments, questions, concerns? Is there a motion?
So move.
Moved by Commissioner Bauer, support. Oberlin. Secretary, take the roll.
Chair Candler?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bauer?
Yes.
Mr. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Hobbs is excused. Mr. Oberlin?
Yes.
5 yes votes.
Motion is adopted. I'm going to interject just one more little item on the agenda that we don't have written in front of us, but we have a couple of employees of the commission staff that we'd like to recognize this morning. First of all, you should know that Valerie Marvin has been awarded the History Hero Award by the Historical Society of Michigan. This is an extremely important history world award, and we're very proud of her, proud to be able to work with her, and very proud of the work you do, and we're very happy that the Historical Society is smart enough to pick up some good people. There's also another award for websites, which goes to the Michigan State Capitol website, and we appreciate the work Brian Page provided for leadership for this project also. So we have some really high caliber employees here that are becoming national experts in the area of preservation, restoration, history, and so it's really important that we recognize them and that we appreciate how fortunate we are to have these kind of people working with us. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Next, we have the report of the Executive Director. Rob, you want to come up and walk us through all your work? Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me today. I will start by going through some projects that we finished this summer and then talk about some other ones that are still on the docket. As you're aware, we had a very, very busy summer this year, and we did complete a lot of our major projects that we had scheduled, starting with the Senate elevator project. The small Senate elevator was completely refurbished with new motor, interior and exterior is completed. Code officials came through and passed it with flying colors, so it's back to be operative, and we fortunately never really disrupted session, which was our goal. The second floor house chamber bathrooms were totally redone, new flooring, lined the piping, new cabinetry, that finished, and again, we didn't interfere with anything in the legislative session, which we're happy to and proud of. We changed out the house chamber TV lighting, as we did with the Senate TV lighting a year ago. That is completed, and we're now continuing to work with the lighting technical crew in there just to make sure everything goes according to the lighting levels, and we'll continue to support them if anything is needed. But so far, so good. No issues have arisen as part of that project. While everyone was away, we changed out the Heritage Hall flooring from, well, I was going to be smart and say the patio carpet that was out there before that everyone said. There, good, I went and said it. The burgundy carpet that was in Heritage Hall in the staterooms has been completely removed. We have added terrazzo outline and added new carpeting in there. And if you haven't had a chance to go down there and see it, please do. It turned out fantastic. It lightens up the area. It brings off the colors of the walls and the wood even more. We had an event down there on Friday, and everyone was raving about the colors and how it turned out. So we're really happy how that turned out, and I'm glad we had the opportunity to do that. The pediment lighting on the east side of the building is finished and working. As I said, the east pediment had an electrical issue, but in order to get to it, we had to have a crane come in, get above the east steps and work on it. I look at that every morning. I'm not one to watch the morning news, but I do turn it on because they show a live feed of the Capitol and you can see the light. So it's when I wake up and have my coffee at 5:30, it's the first thing I do is turn on the TV to start work to make sure all the lights are working at the Capitol building. And that's one of the areas you see immediately. So it's shining brightly and looking great. The northeast quadrant right outside of Clerk Brown's office was an interesting find for us here, and I'll give you the full story. About 2 months ago, I'll say, we had an excessive amount of water in that area, and we have for some time, but could never really figure out the culprit. Well, this water was so bad it was bubbling, and we actually started having a sinkhole. So what we started to do is investigate the rain leaders, which is really the drains. The best way to explain it in layman's terms, when you're at your house at home and it rains, the rain goes to the gutters and it goes to the downspouts and it pushes the water away from the foundation of the house. We do that here commercially, but the gutters are hidden up on the roof and they go down to an 8-inch clay tile, which is 10 feet under the foundation of the Capitol, runs it to a cistern, which then takes it and runs it to the storm drain on Ottawa Street. So it's a little more sophisticated. Anyway, to get back where I was, we had bubbling water. Once we ran a camera down some of the lines, we realized there was a collapse in the original 8-inch pipe. Now, the 8-inch pipe, again, was original. We unearthed it, as you can tell by the mess that's out there, and realized we did have a collapse. What we have done, we have excavated that area, put in a new piece of piping, and then we have gone ahead and completely lined the piping from the roof all the way to the cistern. All that work should finish this week by covering that back up. And as a precaution, we're going to get into the cistern and put a liner into the 8-inch line that goes all the way to Ottawa Street as a precaution. The line looks good, but we just want to make sure that we eliminate that issue. When this is complete, we're going to start looking at all the other quadrants, because 30 years ago, when I started here, we were working underneath the west side, and Jerry Lawler kept talking about there was a natural spring underneath the west wing. Well, when we unearthed it for Heritage Hall, we can never locate where this water source was. So just by chance, we ran a line down on the west side, and lo and behold, an 8-inch line has been broken. It looks like it's been that way for years. Now, not even going into the great detail, but there are 2 rain drains that were simultaneously right next to each other, parallel. One of them was lined back during the restoration, thinking that the problem was taken care of. The other one was rumored to be abandoned, so they never did anything with it. Well, lo and behold, it was operative. So all these years where we thought there was a pond or a pool of water coming in, it was really on the heavy rains. It had nowhere to go but come out of the surface down there. So we're going to continue, go through each quadrant and every single rain drain, run a camera down the line, and go out as far as we can just to make sure if they're active or not, being proactive, and hopefully we don't have to do any more major dig-ups. The hard part about getting under the Capitol now during the foundation is during the CIU project, we put in geothermal as well as we put in air ducts underneath the ground, which is called the DOAS, the direct outdoor air supply. So to get down there now, it's no longer just digging a hole in the ground, it's actually surgery. You have to get down there and dig between things and around things without disrupting the active systems that are there. So we'll continue to do that work proudly and make sure that we don't damage the building or basically keep it in there anymore. One last comment on that. One of the news reporters, because I had many questions asked about it, said, why do we have to worry about doing the repair immediately? I said, well, if we didn't do the repair immediately, the water would start building up into that pipe. The pipe could go all the way up to the 2nd floor or 3rd floor. If the water line were to break there, we'd now have plaster damage, carpet damage. It'd be millions of dollars and a headache and a half just to repair that. So Even though it was an ugly repair, it was necessary to take care of it right away to prevent anything that would happen upstairs. As we move forward, the first floor south entry doors were restored and replaced last couple weeks ago, and they removed the first floor north doors to be restored, which would complete the full circle of all the first floor doors being taken care of. The doors on the first floor is going to take about 6 weeks to finish, and we will replace those immediately, and then we're going to work on how do we secure those even better with door controls, because that's one area that we're continuing to look at as we build our security program here at the Capitol. From decorative painting, as you know, we completed the restoration of the rotunda, and we're now moving to the fourth floor ceilings. The inspection phase of this project is complete, and we've met with our project team on a couple times to start finalizing the project specifications. There's a lot of work up there, and there's even one area that was rumored to be drywall ceiling that was back from the restoration, but we're finding different stencil paints under it, so we're now taking a step to do a little more study to make sure if it's original, that was plastered over or skim coated over. So there's a little more investigation taking place before we go ahead and bid out the work and review the pricing. The work is still scheduled to start in 2025, and it should never interfere with any of the activities that take place up there. We will work around it and build scaffolding, so like the fourth floor committee rooms for the House won't ever be pushed off or the schedules will get messed up. The rotunda glass floor, we are still working with Lucid Glass Studio, and we are in the final mock-up phase of the review. They have been giving one of the original pieces that was made in England back in the day, and they're finalizing the color and the sheen. Once that is approved, we're going to move to the production phase and then start scheduling when and how we're going to start replacing that. So that's still a pretty exciting project. There's a lot more detail to come on that, but I won't get into that today. I'll share that for another meeting where I can really share some pictures and share pieces of glass with the commission of what we're actually doing down there as we're restoring this for the first time in Capitol history. As we continue with all of our trades to do inspections, we had a vendor come in to inspect the motors that raise the chamber chandeliers as well as all the chains that support them. This is the first thorough inspection that we've had since I've been affiliated with the Capitol, and I'm glad we did because the folks that came in and inspected it said, yeah, these motors are in great condition, but they were installed in 1974. So they're 50 years old, and the chains, we don't know. We think they were replaced during the restoration, but they were painted, so it's hard to tell if there's any distress or cracks in the chain. We think they're in good shape, but being proactive and with the beautiful 10 chandeliers, it makes me nervous talking about it, more or less doing it. So, yeah, that's what I was going to say. For the safety of the senators and reps, it makes me very uneasy. So we are going to go ahead and replace all the motors and chains in those mounts. We actually have the staff in-house that can take care of that project ourselves. So when that comes time, we will go ahead and schedule that, and I'll let everyone know. It should not disrupt anything. It's something that we could do at any time, because there are actually locks up there when the chains and motors pull it up, you lock them out, so you could take the chain and motor off and it still stay in place. Being that as it may, though, this was a great find by our team, and it's something, again, being proactive and taking care of the little problems so we don't have problems in the future, and taking care of those now before we would have a disastrous repair. That's all I have for projects. I'd like to talk now a little bit.
Rob, just a second. Let me see if any commissioner has any questions about projects first. Any questions about projects? And again, as you mentioned, we take care of these things ahead of time, and I also really appreciate the support we've received from the House, the Senate, the Governor's Office for the resources to do this, to keep this building up to shape. The staff does a great job, and the legislative process, the budget process has been very kind to us and supporting us in doing that. So it's a really important thing to recognize them also. Thanks.
Thank you, too. The next item on the agenda I'd like to talk about is the weekend update. So I'll have First Lieutenant Jay Pupard join me up here as we just give you an update of all of our discussions that we have had going into this. So we've been working actively as a small team with First Lieutenant Jay Pupard from the Michigan State Police, Dan Oberlin, Secretary of the Senate, and we actually had a meeting with Senator Anthony. And we gave them an update, and we've been continually evaluating what parts of the building will open will be accessible, budget considerations as far as come to labor. And from the Capital Commission side, we have gone ahead and hired 3 additional tour guides to fill some of these weekend positions that are coming up. I'll turn it over to Jay at this point to kind of give you an update from the Michigan State Police side.
Good morning, Chair and committee. So when it really boils down to it for us is it boils down to the number of personnel that we have. That's our biggest concern right now. So as it stands right now, we have 11 SPOs, State Property Security Officers. We have 1 that is in training, and we have 2. We have 1 that is in training and completed an academy, and still in a field training officer phase, scheduled to be completed by December. And then we have 2 that are currently participating in an academy right now. So in early January, they will be in the FTO program as well here at the Capitol. We are actively working diligently. We have identified a couple of local recruiting events, and I'm working closely with my agency and our agency's recruiting members to try to engage to attract more personnel to the positions. But right now, that's kind of where we're at. We're hoping to be staffed at, I know that we can be staffed to up to 30, and right now we're at 11 with 3 in training.
Can you explain for us, by the way, the difference between a trooper and SPO?
The primary difference between a trooper and an SPO is the SPO's responsibilities. I'll say this to keep it simple. SPSOs they have the authority of state troopers on state properties. They do not carry their department-issued weapons home in their vehicles. When they come to work with their firearms secured in their locker at the Joint Operations Center. But that's the primary difference, sir. They're not certified. They are not MCOLS, Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards. They are not MCOLS certified. But so, for instance, a state trooper receives probably about 2,400 hours of training. They stay overnight at the recruit schools. We do have a very stringent guideline that we have in place here personally, that even though they're not MCOLS certified, our officers, when they're attending a state police training academy, a recruit school, they receive anywhere between 1,500 and 1,800 of those hours. So it's a significant amount of training.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Other questions?
Thank you for being here today. Appreciate it. Based on the discussions you've been having, based on, what the plan, the outline of a plan is and how we'd run weekend on Saturdays, to be fully staffed where your comfort level, what do you need to do that the week and that Saturday? What's your comfort level?
Well, the first 2 things I'll mention, we are targeting, if everything works out according to our plan, is to start opening in January. And what we even want to do at that point is to open 1 day a month, just to start working in how it works, because as we all know, it's a different animal now opening up the building with full security versus what it was in the past. So working once a month and then transitioning to a more frequent schedule, we believe Capital Commission is going to need three staffers, and I think, and I'll speak for Jay here, you can correct me, I think they need 5 officers on site just to handle those hours that we want to be open on any given day. Okay. And this is restricting no access to Heritage Hall, just the State Capitol building, and then with our camera systems assisting the rest of the time. That is where we are targeting.
So, I guess, back to my question, what's your comfort level to be at, let's say, even with that 1 day, but for a week? Because right now I know, for example, they've pulled the security system at the annex, because I'm guessing it's because of a staffing issue, I would assume.
That's twofold. What we have found, and one of it was because of staffing, at the annex, we believe that we've added some door swipes. So when someone comes in, they have to go up the stairs and go through a security point anyway. If we have a caterer or a contractor in the morning, we call state police, they do their inspection, and then they move on their way. It's very infrequent, and we think that we can go through without it because of all the other layers of security we've added. again, once they arrive, they have no choice unless they have swipe access, which they don't, to be pushed up to the ground floor north wing. Then, before they enter the building, they go through the Evolve system and check for weapons. So we've been working closely with each other, and if it doesn't work out, we'll put it back. But at this point, we believe we've come up with a solution that'll alleviate, and I'll have Jay support that if you'd like.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that, certainly, Rob. With doing threat assessments, that is generally, it's a multi-layered employee entrance is really what that entrance is. It's a private entrance, really by invite only. So we feel very, very comfortable without having that weapon detection system at that particular venue. And we also have options. We have an option that, in an idea, to potentially deploy that at the east entrance as well, to have an additional system at the east entrance when visitor volumes are high. We can expedite those entrances.
Just a comment, thank you very much, I appreciate that. Just a comment, I understand what you're going through as far as getting staff. We're going through the same with the house. I always say we pick up one new one and we lose one. Pick up one and lose two. So, I mean, it's kind of a difficult situation for you all. So my concern is if we're gonna do this on the weekends, that there be the staff is there that you feel comfortable with, that you can get this done. But at the same time, taking care of the week, which is even more important, so.
Yeah, thank you, Committee Member Brown. I'll expand on that just a little bit. Is that it is very stressful, and we take it very seriously, of course, and we certainly don't want to overwork the very high-performing staff that we do have in place here, and that is a bit of a concern. I mean, ideally, it's if we were to do this, we're certainly working with Rob and working with some other important voices. We certainly feel that we could take this approach early in 2025 with this potentially once a month with scheduling to put our toes in the water with it, but it would certainly be incredibly taxing to our staff right now to try to do anything more than that right now. Again, we want to meet every need that the Capitol has from a safety and security perspective. We just simply don't have the personnel. And what I can commit to you all is that we are working diligently to try to get those positions filled. And sometimes finding qualified candidates that want to be here for the right reasons is challenging.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Commissioner Brown. And I share your concerns, and we'll make sure that we're covered for the week and the weekends, and we won't move ahead on the weekend stuff until everybody up here is comfortable with what we have.
I think Dan had
Mr. Oberlin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think these gentlemen did a great job explaining the background on this, but one thing that did come from our meeting with Chairwoman Anthony is that because of the intent language in the budget asking us to be open for 3 hours every Saturday, well, one day a weekend, starting in October, we're not going to make that deadline. She suggested that we communicate to the legislative leaders and the governor by letter why we're not going to make that deadline and what our plans are moving forward. She thought that was sort of standard operating procedure when you can't make intent language. I'd be happy to work with you on
Thank
that.
you. We'll call in to do that, please. Thank you. Rob?
Thank you. We will do whatever you deem necessary for us to do, but our goal is to start in January, and we can help with the body of the letter as well to prepare for that, for the leadership.
You want to continue on? Anything else? We continue on?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, in your folders, you will find a 5-year plan, which shows here. And what I've done is put this together a little bit early. I typically prepared this and given it to everyone around December, but I have to turn it over to House Fiscal and other folks in February, and a lot of the times with the meeting dates, I've missed it. So I wanted to get this to the commission early. This is really a 5-year capital expense forecast of where we're going to be directing our restricted restoration and renewal funds into what projects. So go ahead and review this, and next month I'll ask for approval. And if you have any comments for this month, for this document, please send it to me and I can explain it in greater detail. These are general categories where they're kind of specific, but They're general, and a lot of the forecasts are on the conservative end, just to make sure that the monies are in there to cover. But again, a lot of the projects on here are portrait and frame conservation, rotunda glass floor replacement repair, interior decorative painting and plaster, cabinetry refinishing throughout the entire building, exterior window and trim painting, interior, exterior grounds signage, governor's office window replacement, which is the security windows, our BIM model upgrade, film and video, all the documentation that we're doing and recording of history and all the building blueprints, an exterior landscape master plan implementation that we hope to start next year, replacing all the window jambs and the shutters in the building, keeping up with our broadcast AV equipment in Heritage Hall, called FF&E, which is furniture and equipment, making sure that all the furniture in the building, including Heritage Hall, is clean, tidy, and not of great repair, and if it is, we have money in there as a placeholder to start replacing these. So I work closely with Barb and Josie and Lucas on this, and we already are starting to replace some chairs and tables that are starting to show a tremendous amount of wear. Anything to do with parking, site improvements, hardscapes, fiberglass lining of the original sanitary pipings, exterior stone and building envelope look. Next year, Chad, Ben, and I have already started having discussions on, it's been 10 years since we worked on and painted the exterior dome, so we need to start doing a condition assessment, again, just to make sure that the condition of those are in great shape and help us evaluate the future work scope. And then lastly, the skylight replacement, which I've been working with Loring Engineers and the team on replacing the skylights above the House and Senate chambers with voltaic skylights that will eventually pull off the electrical grid. So that's a big energy project that we're working on. And those are all highlighted on this 5-year plan here. So again, take the month, evaluate it, come to me with any questions, and then I'll ask next month for approval on this part of the 5-year plan.
Thanks, Rob. Any questions at this point? Commissioner Bauer?
I wish you'd come to my house and make a list. But I would like to say, when I think of the commission being established a while ago and the current structure, I just think we should be so pleased and proud that we're attending to all of these things. And again, to thank our legislature and governor for the money to do it, but for the people of Michigan, I mean, we're preserving a building and doing, lots of these things are not very visible, but if we don't do them, we all know, like in our own homes, what ends up happening. So I just want to thank you and your team, and really, again, we are so lucky. I know a lot of us travel to other capitals, and ours, I think, is one of the best. You can tell it's so well maintained. And I think the people of Michigan who come here to visit are very, very proud of it. So, but when I look at this, I can see why. So thank you so much.
Any other comments or questions? And you're right, Commissioner Bauer, when we think about what the commission does, usually at the meetings, we talk about things that are more visible, like, security, et cetera, but this is the guts of what the commission does, keeping this building together, and this is a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of detail, so we appreciate that.
Thank you. In addition, our general budget is getting a 5% increase here, which is pretty similar to what the civil service is getting. Matter of fact, civil service is passing the 5% increase on to their staff, and I recommend our staff get that same 5% increase this year. In addition, I would like to propose a one-time lump sum payment of 2% for all the extra time and effort that our team has put in this year to work around the rotunda restoration, the Heritage Hall flooring upgrades, and the many projects are on there to make sure this building is up to the high standards that we like and without disrupting any schedules. I would ask for a motion to pass that.
Is there a motion to support Rob's recommendation?
So moved.
Commissioner Bauer? Commissioner Oberlin supports. Is there any comment, questions, discussion? If not, Secretary, please call the roll.
Chair Candler?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bauer?
Yes.
Mr. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Hobbs is excused. Mr. Oberlin?
Yes.
5 yes votes.
Motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, too. The next item on the agenda, I'm going to have Barb and Josh come up, but just real briefly, it's about portrait conservation. And again, the level of detail that our intellectually diverse staff is what I like to call it, because we have subject matter experts now in just about every arena here. And that does lend, well, number one, it makes my job easier, but it also, we have such great resources, not just from partnering with the House and the Senate and the Executive Committee, as Chair Candler mentioned, but within our own staff. And Barb and Josh are going to come up and talk about a possible solution to one of our biggest problems that we may have here, and I'll have them come up and explain the rest.
Good morning. Welcome. Barb, you want to lead off?
Yeah, I'll start.
Thank you.
So Commissioner Bauer, actually, I'm going to dovetail into what you said. I've visited a lot of state capitals, and I think that our art collection is one of the top collections, I think, that I've seen in state capitals. So over the years, and this kind of came up during the CIU project, where we talked about how to protect our art, ways environmentally to protect it, but also I'm sure most of you have seen what's happened in the news over the years with protesters damaging art in museums and galleries. So our staff has talked over the years and brainstormed on ways that we could do that. It's gone from experts recommending something called microclimates, where they would actually box in each piece, including the frame, and have its own temperature-controlled environment, which would be quite obtrusive, and we definitely were not interested in pursuing that. We have talked with our local conservator that we've used for 30-plus years about putting glass over our art, which is what a lot of museums and galleries are doing as a way to protect art as well. We've been reluctant for that as well. It's quite costly because of the size of our paintings. The plate glass, when you get to those kinds of sizes, is quite costly. But more than that, it also distracts you from how you're viewing that piece of art if it's under glass. It really takes away the detail that we want people to see. So we had recently just discovered a scanner, and Josh did a lot of research on it. We've seen the scanner work in person. We went to an artist who is using it actively and saw the process and how they're using it. And I'm going to let Josh talk about the operational parts of it, and then I'll just wrap it up and talk about why I feel like it could be beneficial for us.
I wanted to start with talking about something she mentioned about the glass. For me as an artist, I feel like keeping the art in front of a person is like us keeping the building open. When you put something behind glass, you sort of say that, you know, it's for a select group of people, but when the painting is right in front of you, it's sort of making a statement that this is for you, this is your possession in some sense as people. So I think that's really important. The glass does something where it makes it a private thing that only certain people, it's for certain people. So I think that is something to think about. That being said, I'm going to try to keep this short, but I don't know if many of you know this, but I started my career in art in the digital field. Like, I didn't start as a traditional artist. I was a commercial artist. I was at the very forefront of digital technology in terms of photographs and stuff. I bought one of the first available digital cameras for commercial use, and it actually led to like 10 years of my career because I had technology that put me ahead of everybody, and I was able to use that. So when I went into, when I was 10 years after owning a business where I wrote code, did reproduction graphics and different things like that, I was at the forefront of that. Sort of felt like it didn't have some of the qualities that I could see like traditional art had. So that's what led me into becoming a traditional painter, traditional artist. It was something I thought was more tangible, more authentic. That being said, as a way to promote myself as an artist, I still had to be in the digital realm. Obviously, I needed to reproduce my paintings. I needed to be able to represent those paintings, and having that digital background allowed me to stay at the forefront of how to represent myself digitally, which is probably one of the reasons I'm sitting here and was able to get my job, because I was able to recreate that and present that to people in a way that was the most authentic and real. Is that clear? That being said, over my 20 years of being a traditional artist, I've never found any technology that could reproduce my hand in terms of like any kind of authentic experience. You can almost always see the fakeness of a print, color accuracy, for the layman, technology can do that, but for the artist or people who are like critical, like Barb, this is the second time today I've called her critical. The technology really was not up to the standards that would allow us to recreate. So what this scanner does that I have found recently, and I've been using it for my own work to be able to recreate, it's basically a flatbed scanner that, but it doesn't have a lid. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the old school. It basically acts like a flatbed scanner, but it is able to create an atmosphere where accuracy of texture, color, everything is at I keep wanting to say a NASA level of resolution, to the point where you can see every hair, every bit of texture the scanner will like pick up. And what that does, it's been like a profound moment for me. What it basically does is make the painting almost more eternal than it was before. Because in the past, like the painting, for me, the fact that we have paintings that have lasted for, 2,000 years or, like certain point, an oil painting always had like, if you build it right, it's going to last for centuries. This scanner has allowed the idea that when that painting cannot withstand a fire or something, we can now recreate the painting down to every texture, so that even if you feel that, you will not be able to tell the difference. So what we would be able to do with this scanner is basically scan our collection and allow us that if anything ever happened, if anybody ever stabbed it or messed with the painting, if there was ever fire or water damage or anything, we could still allow the people to see and interact with these paintings in as close to as real situation as a painting as you can possibly get. It allows us to do conservation work in terms of like seeing every little detail of fiber in the paintings, even with our flags. We'll be able to we could scan flags and recreate the texture and everything of our Civil War flags. But nothing more, we'll be able to see detail and analyze those hundreds of years into the future. And I think that's all I have.
Yeah, so if you look over
Yeah.
on my shoulder here, we've got an original painting of an angel by Josh, and then we have the scanned copy next to it. So after the meeting, we'd love for you to come up and look at the two side by side and see what you think of the scan. We were pretty pleased with it when we received it. But the other part that excites me about this, not only protecting our own art collection, I also see it as a potential way to network with other state agencies and even our own legislative agencies. Doug Simon and the Business Office for the House of Representatives has been a huge supporter of our art and has purchased many pizzas for their end of the building. And we feel like this is a way to also scan those landscape pieces that we have in the Capitol now as well. It's a way for us to connect with the Hall of Justice with their portrait collection and offer these services to their collection as well. And the same goes for the State Historical Museum. I think that it's a benefit for everybody. And it also would lend itself to what we would do with a potential gift shop if we wanted to offer digital copies of these pieces for resale in a shop. If we want to send one of our paintings out for conservation and it's going to be gone for 6 months like just happened, we could have a print put up in place of it while it's gone, so nobody would even know that one was out. So we feel like there's lots of potential there, but most importantly, we're preserving our collection and what's important to the building and making it special. Before I wrap up, I do want to invite you to, if you haven't stopped in Heritage Hall to see the carpet, also stop and see our new art exhibit that we have in the conservation window as well. That just went up a couple weeks ago, so please do that.
Thank you. So I suppose at some point in the future, we're going to have a recommendation on this, so all the commissioners, if you have some interest and want to get some more background, take some time, we'll review this, see what it's about, see, not only the value of it, but, the need for it, et cetera, and the cost of it. And any questions at this point? So let us know when you're at a point when you make a specific recommendation, and we'll review it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is a project that I want to have Commissioner Bowman talk about. But I want to, first of all, commend Commissioner Bowman and also Commissioner Bauer, Vice Chair Bauer. And I'm going to tell you how many hours they've spent on this Park Michigan project. It's a big project, an exciting project, but they have spent an enormous amount of time. I've done a great amount of work, and really doing some specific, some special, our special project is going to bring some real pride to the state of Michigan when we get through with it. So, Commissioner Bowman, you want to give us an update?
Thank you. The capital outlay budget passed earlier this year by the legislature and approved by the governor authorized the commission to plan and design a new downtown park that we've been referring to as Park Michigan. And we are very excited about this project as an opportunity to enhance the visitor experience to our Capitol building as well as other downtown landmark attractions. As we've discussed in the past, the new park would be located between the Capitol building, the Hall of Justice, and the Michigan History Center. We have viewed it as a Michigan Mall, a smaller scale version of the National Mall in Washington. It will provide a better and safer connectivity for visitors between the Capitol building, the Hall of Justice, and the History Center. With this park, we would no longer have school groups walking through parking lots and along streets, so we think it's important from that respect as well to enhance that experience. And it gives us a new opportunity to tell the story of Michigan, to tell about Michigan's history. We are continuing to design the park, but we do hope that some of the features might include an enhancement of the Frank Kelly walkway between the Hall of Justice and the Capitol building, and to preserve the impressive views along that corridor. We'd like to see a broad entrance from the Michigan History Center with a walkway bordered by gardens and an arched sign at the entryway. A beautiful landscaped front lawn in front of the Michigan History Center with gardens, benches, pathways, a plaza at the visual center of the park with an inset image of Michigan, a walk of history path to tell the story of Michigan, a picnic area for visitors and school groups. In fact, since we do receive a large number of school groups that come to the Capitol and then move on to the Learning Center at the Hall of Justice or the Michigan History Center, Joan Bauer has agreed to reach out to educators in the field to see what would be helpful when you bring school groups down to the Capitol and as they transition, from the Capitol to the History Center. We'll be looking at that as well. We'd like a presentation area with potentially terrace seating to gather groups for presentations. And we want better connectivity to the Michigan Veterans Memorial, Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and the Law Enforcement Officer Memorial. And finally, we in 2026, the United States will be celebrating the 250th anniversary of our democracy. And Michigan has made great contributions to that, and we would like to see this park as part of a way to commemorate that great anniversary. So we are continuing to work with our design team on the park design. We're working with the Michigan History Center and how we can use the park to help tell the story of Michigan. And we're working with the Department of Technology Management and Budget on the specific footprint for the park. We are hoping that at the next meeting, we will be able to share some final conceptual design renderings of the park as we continue to advance the project. So thank you. We're excited about working on it, and we hope to continue to update you on where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowman. Any questions from anybody? Any comments? This is really a very exciting project. It's going to be great, as John said, for school visitors. It's going to be great even just for the neighborhood, the people living in that neighborhood. Right now, it's an area that's got a few state buildings scattered around. It seems like not necessarily connected with any kind of theme. Parking lots, surface parking lots. It's going to be a beautiful area, not only for the state of Michigan, but for the locals that live in Lansing. It's going to be quite a contribution by the commission and the state of Michigan to the Lansing neighborhoods also. No other comments? Oh, Commissioner Bauer.
And I think I've mentioned this before, but it really struck me in December when I went with my fourth grade great niece from DeWitt on the Capitol tour. And it was magnificent. The tour got all of it. Then 25 fourth graders, in case you've never, I don't have any children, so it was an experience. But anyway, so then we leave the Capitol with the teacher and the chaperones. And there's no good way to get to the History Center, which is where most of them go next. So you have kids kind of running down the street and through parking lots, teachers trying to keep people organized. And it just struck me that we have this wonderful experience, and then, the gap in that. So it's not only for the experience of, again, having a safer, more connected route, but we can also then certainly sneak in, especially for kids, some history things so they can learn along the way. So it is just a wonderful project, and I'm just feel so fortunate to have the chance to work on this. And I have to say again, Bill Candler, our chair's done a lot of work, but John Bowman really is our lead on this, and we thank him.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions on the park? Thanks again, John. Is there any other business to come before the commission that we've not addressed yet? Anybody have any other comments, questions, concerns, issues, topics? Commissioner Bauer, go ahead.
It's probably not, I don't want to put him on the spot, but we received this wonderful photo of the battle flag ceremony, and I could not be there in person, but it just looks like it was a wonderful event. And I don't know if it's appropriate to ask Matt to say a couple words about it, but I just thought it was I so wish I could have been there.
Do you want to ask him to say some words?
If he's willing.
Just a few words.
Good morning. Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate a few moments. I can't take credit for this event. It was a all-commission event. Rob's to be given a ton of credit for throwing his support behind it, as did the commissioners. It was a really great event. We were able to secure 80 descendants and supporters of the Battle Flag Project, and these are literally folks who had ancestors who fought and died on the battlefields of the Civil War, some of them beneath the very flags that they were carrying replicas of. So I've had so many folks reach out to me since the event and said what an honor it was to be a part of it. And I've literally had people tell me it was one of the culminating events of their time in researching their ancestors to be a part of that. So appreciate the commission's support for it. It was a great event. Thank you.
Appreciate your work, Matt. Thank you so much for your leadership.
You're welcome.
That's it for comments from you. Any public comments? Anybody from the public here wishes to address the commission? We're not very popular. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Support? Moved and supported. The commission meeting now adjourned. Anybody opposed? We're adjourned.